Hey, it's you. So I've recently gotten back from just over 2 months in South America. I just uploaded a video about my time in Chile. I spent about 6 weeks there. Feel free to check that out. And I thought I just wanted to share my experiences of my time in Argentina. I was there a little under 5 weeks. I just want to give the same warning, I guess, that these are just my experiences, the things I did, the things I enjoyed, the things that I personally associate with Argentina. It's not representative of the country or the people as a whole. I want to start off with empanadas. I did not ever have a disappointing empanada, and they were everywhere. When I was hungry, no matter what, I knew it was empanada time. And I am vegetarian, and there were so many amazing vegetarian options that weren't just cheese. I really enjoyed the empanadas that I had in Argentina more than the ones that I had in Chile. Also, dulce de leche. Delicious, incredibly sweet. I couldn't have it often or very much, but it was so good when I did have it. There was a chain store in Buenos Aires that was a dulce de leche store, and I loved it so much because it reminded me of a store we have on the east coast of Canada that is also called Cows. Even the logos I thought looked fairly similar. Our Cows is more ice cream, cheese. I just thought that was fun because when I stumbled across it, just like out exploring the town, I was like, why the hell is there Cows here? And I tried one that was an orange flavored dulce de leche, and I loved it. It was so good. I wish I could have brought it home, but again, I only had a carry-on bag, so you can only bring like very small, less than 100 mils of liquids. So I couldn't bring it home, but it was so good. And in a similar vein, alfajores, 2 cookies, dulce de leche in between them, and then coated in chocolate. One of my favorite sweet treats ever. Now, if Chile is pisco, Argentina is Fernet. I don't love Fernet. It's not for me, but something about there being posters and signs for Fernet everywhere, I loved. I don't love Fernet like I love pisco, but I love the concept of the Fernet culture in Argentina. Now, we do have to talk about it. We really do. Mate culture. You guys are crazy for mate. Now, I will give you, it's simply delicious. I believe it's great for digestion, inflammation, all sorts of things like that, and I think it tastes pretty good. But you guys, and this is not derogatory, it's just crazy, are drinking it at all times, from the minute you wake up to the second before you go to bed, and people are carrying around their mate cups and a thermos of hot water with them all day long. It's funny to see. It's such a cultural thing that I can't even imagine here. Like, I can't even think of if there is like a North American version of mate. Like, that's, people generally are always carrying on them. But it was really funny. For instance, when I was hiking Fitzroy in Patagonia and just kind of fighting for my life, there were people walking past me with their big thermoses of hot water and their mate cup, just doing what is to me a very difficult hike with their mate cup and their thermos, just blowing by me. Incredible, truly. I love the mate culture, and I appreciate that about you guys. Something I really loved about Argentina was the money. Somebody showed me that on the bills, the pesos, on one side of the bill, there is the adult version of the animal, and on the other side, it's very small, but there's a baby version of the animal. And I loved that. How cute. The money is so colorful. It's so pretty. I am so interested in foreign currencies. That's one of my favorite parts of traveling, is seeing what the money looks like there. And I made an Argentinian friend, and she gave me some bills that, from what I understand, are basically obsolete now. Like, they are still in circulation, but they are so small that they don't really serve a purpose, kind of like our Canadian penny was before we got rid of it. So I have like 20 pesos, 50 pesos, and they have really beautiful art in them. So I was really grateful for that, and it's just an example of the kindness of the Argentinian people that she was just willing to give these to me because I'm so fascinated by the currency of other countries. So, Mendoza, I didn't love it, and this is an unpopular take, and I know that to be true. Everybody else loved Mendoza. I will concede that I didn't give it all that I needed to give it, I think, to get the most out of it. I was only there for 2 days. I was tired. I didn't want to spend all of the money to do the things that I think Mendoza is known for. Like there's like horseback riding tours, wine tours, things along those lines. And there is a national park, maybe I think like an hour to 2 hours away from there, that did look really, really cool. If I had a car, I think I would have really loved Mendoza for all the things there are to do surrounding it. But as somebody who was just kind of stuck within the confines of the city, there wasn't much for me, and maybe I just wasn't looking in the right places. I went to all of the plazas. I believe there are 5 main plazas, and those were quite beautiful, actually. I would recommend checking them out. It can easily be done in a couple hours, but it was an event that I tried to stretch out the entire day, and so I just didn't feel like I was getting out of Mendoza what I was getting out of other cities I went to. And from Mendoza, I took an overnight bus to Buenos Aires. And let me tell you, the buses in South America are fantastic. They're very comfortable. I had a great sleep on it. I adore Buenos Aires. I don't typically like cities when I travel. I prefer the nature side of things when I'm going to a new country. And I only had about 4 or 5 days booked in Buenos Aires, and I just fell in love with it. And I ended up staying almost 2 weeks. It was just such an amazing city that is full of so much. There's so much food and culture and art. There was just so much to see and do in Buenos Aires, and I know I didn't even get to see a sliver of it. I noticed there was a lot of Italian influence in the cuisine there, so I ate at some really nice Italian restaurants. It kind of makes sense in a way with the wine culture that is bred in Argentina, but that's just something I noticed. I also noticed a lot of like French influence in the architecture. I've never been to France, but I felt like walking in certain neighborhoods felt reminiscent of Paris to me. And it was a very clean city. A lot of cities I've been to are not clean. The cleanest city actually I've ever been to is Auckland in New Zealand, but Buenos Aires was very close, and that was not something I totally expected, but is always so nice to see. Particularly, I believe in San Telmo, which was my favorite neighborhood. I cannot recommend this area enough if you are in Buenos Aires. It had amazing food, amazing energy, the streets, the cobblestone streets, the colorful houses. It was so cool to walk through, and there were great markets. There's of course the classic San Telmo market, which reminds me of Granville Island in Vancouver. I loved walking through the bustle of it. There were so many people, and they were speaking so many languages, I couldn't have counted them all. It was a very cool epicenter of people coming together in the heart of Argentinian culture. While in Buenos Aires, I went to a tango show. This is something I never in my life would have otherwise experienced. Tango was never really something that interested me. I'd never really been to a dance show, and I had no idea what to expect. When I got to Buenos Aires, I quickly learned that this was a very important and integral part of the culture of this city, and it just seemed like something I had to do. I knew if I left without doing this, I would regret it. So I made some friends with some girls in the hostel, and we went to a tango show together, and I'm so grateful I went. I really had no idea what to expect going in. So I clearly know nothing about tango because I was under the impression that it's just 2 people dancing, which I now think is salsa, but tango was like 12 dancers, like 6 men and 6 women, and there was a whole orchestra, well, like a 6-piece orchestra, and every song was like a different story. There were sets for every song, and they were telling a story through dance. It was really cool and not what I expected of tango, and is an experience I'm super grateful I went on. On a slightly more somber note, I was in Buenos Aires during a recent protest. As I understand it, the Argentinian people are no strangers to protest. I love that about them. In the beginning of the day, I was just walking around the city doing some exploring, and I heard a drum line I love drum lines. I love drum music. So I followed that sound, and I believe it was outside of a court, but it was protesting something about justice. And they were protesting with a drum line, and I thought that was really cool. I was out for maybe 6 hours, and I get back to my hostel later in the day, and my hostel, I think, is on a main street, and our room, I'm in with 5 other girls, has a balcony on it looking over the main street, and we start hearing a lot of commotion. The protest is huge. There are hundreds of people walking down the street, and we stand on the balcony for a while and we watch, because they were chanting. We were trying to figure out what they were chanting, trying to figure out exactly what they were protesting for. I know now, I believe it is cuts to retirement funds or pushing back the age of retirement that would kind of force older people to continue working longer than they should have to. And things quickly escalated. People started pushing dumpsters into the street and setting them on fire, and I saw 1 or 2 cop cars get overtaken and then burned down. We were, of course, realizing this is not a normal protest, that this city that we have come to love and that we are visitors in is hurting, that the people are hurting. I'm not here to say what form of protesting is best, and I am especially not going to speak on that for another country whose struggles I cannot ever personally know. But there was something strengthening and beautiful about the way they were fighting for each other. But as things started to get more intense in the street, we started hearing shots. And at this point, about 60 police on motorcycles start rushing the street, and we are watching people running for their lives, running in terror as they are coming in on these motorcycles with, and I believe they were rubber bullets, but that does not change the terror that I saw in those people's faces as they were running for their lives. Something to me that was so special was maybe 40 minutes after this, after things seemed to have calmed down, people took to the streets again to sing. It sounded hopeful. All I'll say is, long live Argentina. The people are strong and their resistance is beautiful. So let's lighten up a little bit after that. Iguazu Falls. I loved Iguazu Falls. It was so cool. It is made up of 275 waterfalls, the main one being the Devil's Throat. It's also one of my favorite days of my trip because I made some really good friends that I went to the park with and we explored it together. It was amazing hiking all of the trails, seeing the waterfalls from dozens of different angles. We actually had a really fun moment where we were thinking of all of the movies that this place reminded us of. Avatar, King Kong, Jurassic Park, and at one point we found this lookout where like nobody else was, and we listened to the Jurassic Park theme song and it was awesome. It was awe-inspiring. I've not seen anything like that. Maybe the Fiordlands in New Zealand that really compares to Iguazu Falls. We also saw a toucan flying overhead. The next day we went to the falls on the Brazilian side. You can just take a day trip there, and we got to do the boat tour because we didn't get to do the boat tour on the Argentinian side. We waited too long and it was all sold out. So we went in the Brazilian side, and it was fun. They kind of just take you in the boat and then take you under the falls, like under the stream, like 6 times. And you just get absolutely soaked. It's really, there's a lot of pressure. You can't open your eyes. They just take you a little bit down the river and then you get drenched. And it was fun. It was a lot of money. And I do wish we spent more time going down the river, but it was pretty cool and I can't complain. And it is so hot there that we dried off before the boat even got us back to the dock. I've never been so sweaty in my whole life. The whole day long I was so sweaty. And yet it was so worth it because Iguazu Falls is one of the most incredible things I have ever seen and may ever see in my life. We also went to the area where you can see Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina. I mean, you can't see borders, so it was definitely a lookout. Kind of an interesting thought, though. In my video about Chile, I mentioned how there were dogs everywhere. Well, in Iguazu, there were cats everywhere. And in my hostel, I discovered like a fresh litter of kittens, so that was nice to check in on them every day. I just had a really great experience in Iguazu, and I wish I'd stayed a few more days than I did. I think people kind of go there for like a day or two, they get in both sides of the falls, and then they leave. But I easily could have spent more time there just to soak in the tropical heat, hang by the pool, just relax. Lastly is gonna be the Patagonia region. El Chalten is easily my favorite of the 3 cities I visited in Patagonia. Calafate was cool as well. The glacier was amazing. I got a ride in with somebody that I met on Hostel World, and he had some sort of pass that allowed him to get in for free. Now, I was expecting to pay, but they let me in with his pass too. So that made it way better. I stood at the lowest viewpoint to watch the glacier for probably an hour. It is the bluest blue you have ever seen. And I saw a massive chunk of ice fall from the front of the glacier, and it is the loudest, most deafening, thundering sound I've ever heard in my life. It was so low and deep, and the waves, the reverberation from the ice that fell. I'm so glad I spent way longer than anybody should have to see that, because it was a really cool sight. And El Chalten I just loved. So I did, I think, 4 hikes that were all over 20 kilometers. Of course, I did the famous Fitzroy. It was incredibly difficult. I love hiking, but I am not that in shape. It took me like 9 hours or something, and I spent a good while at the summit, but it was so cool. Like, the last 2 kilometers are like straight up. It's a crazy hike. I really loved this town. It was so reminiscent of Canmore in Alberta. Just like this quaint little village, really, surrounded by mountains. I loved that all of the trailheads were walkable from the town. Especially, here's a hack, it's quite expensive to do the trails, but if you go before 7 a.m., it's free because there's nobody there to check. It was kind of a sleepy town because everyone was there, of course, to hike. So everybody was getting up at like 5, 6 a.m. and going to bed 8, 9, maybe 10 at night. And yet I still made really good friends there. As raving as my review of Argentina has been, I have one massive gripe with you. Why do you not stamp the passport? That's like one of the best parts of traveling, is getting to see all the stamps in your passport. I have like 6 stamps from Chile because you get an entry and an exit stamp. I don't really know why you don't, but I sure wish you did. Overall, I loved Argentina. The Argentinian people were lovely. I found the Argentinian Spanish a lot easier to understand than the Chilean accent, and everybody was always willing to try to help me figure things out. Everyone was just very kind. Argentina is easily a 10 out of 10. Buenos Aires is my favorite city I've ever been to. So easily, 2 thumbs up, 10 out of 10. Go to Argentina. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment. I love to have conversations, and subscribe if it moves ya. I'll see you in the next one.